Focus on yourself and stay silent. The secret power people never talk about. What if the most powerful move you could make isn't speaking louder, but going quieter? In a noisy world filled with opinions, comparison, and pressure, the real strength lies in turning inward, fueling your mind, and protecting your energy. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. When you stop chasing validation and start nurturing yourself, you unlock confidence, resilience, and unstoppable momentum. The world notices when you rise without noise. This is where growth, clarity, and true self-mastery begin. The power of silence in a noisy world. When you pause for just a moment and think about the world we're living in right now, you'll notice one thing almost immediately. It's loud. It's filled with voices telling you who you should be, what you should buy, how you should act, and what your life should look like. From the moment you wake up and glance at your phone to the second you scroll before bed, you are surrounded by noise, constant comparison, endless information, opinions stacked on top of opinions. And here's the truth. If you don't take intentional control of what you let in, that noise will drown out the most important voice you'll ever hear, your own. Silence is not just the absence of sound. Silence is presence. It's the intentional pause that allows you to reconnect with yourself in a world designed to keep you distracted. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in complete quiet without reaching for your phone, without turning on the TV, without filling the space with something external? For many people, that feels almost uncomfortable, even awkward. But that discomfort tells us something powerful. It shows just how rare true silence has become. Yet in that quiet space, something magical happens. Your brain begins to process, to reset, to breathe. Neuroscience shows us that moments of silence can lower stress hormones, calm the nervous system, and actually stimulate brain growth in areas connected to memory, focus, and emotion. So while the world may be pushing you toward more noise, more hustle, more chatter, silence is working behind the scenes, strengthening you in ways you can't always see in the moment. But beyond the science, silence offers something deeply practical. It creates room for clarity. Have you ever noticed how your best ideas often come in the shower or during a walk or in those quiet early moments before the day begins? That's not an accident. It's because your brain is free from bombardment. It's no longer juggling 5 conversations, 3 deadlines, and the pressure of keeping up. Instead, it finally has the bandwidth to connect the dots and reveal insights you'd miss in the noise. Silence also teaches us discipline. It teaches us patience. In a culture that tells us to react instantly, to reply immediately, to always have an opinion ready, choosing silence is a radical act of strength. You don't always have to speak to be heard. You don't always have to announce every step of your journey to prove you're making progress. Sometimes the most powerful move is to say nothing at all, to observe, to reflect, and to wait for the right moment. And here's the part that really matters. When you choose silence, you reclaim control. You shift from being pulled in 1,000 directions to standing firm in who you are. You move from chasing validation outside of yourself to grounding in validation that comes from within. Silence becomes not an escape, but a strategy. It's the foundation that allows you to focus fully on yourself without apology, without guilt, without distraction. So as we continue forward, I want you to imagine what would happen if you carved out even just 10 minutes each day to sit in silence. No phone, no background noise, just you and your thoughts. Imagine how much clearer your priorities would feel, how much calmer your mind would become, and how much stronger your decisions would be when they're rooted in clarity instead of chaos. The world is going to keep shouting. That won't change. But you have a choice in how much of that shouting you allow into your mind, into your energy, into your life. Silence is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is power. And it is the gateway to focusing on what truly matters to you. Close the noise out. Let silence in. That's where your strength begins. Self-focus is not selfish. There's a phrase I hear often, focusing on yourself is selfish. Maybe you've heard that too. Maybe you've even felt guilty at some point for putting your own needs first. We've been conditioned to believe that constantly giving, constantly pouring out our energy, constantly saying yes to everyone else is the mark of a good person. But let me ask you this, how can you pour into others if your own cup is empty? How can you show up with strength, compassion, and clarity for the people around you if you're drained, distracted, and disconnected from yourself? Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. It is an act of strength and an act of responsibility. Because when you are grounded, when you are healthy, when you are clear on your own values and goals, you don't just benefit yourself, you benefit everyone you touch. Think about the people in your life who inspire you most. They're not running on fumes. They're not saying yes out of guilt or exhaustion. They radiate energy because they've taken the time to invest in themselves first. Here's the shift I want you to consider. Instead of thinking about self-focus as exclusion, think about it as preparation. When you invest in your growth, when you protect your mental health, when you stay centered, you are preparing yourself to be a better leader, a better partner, a better friend, a better human being. Your ability to contribute to the world expands in direct proportion to how much you've invested in your own foundation. And this doesn't require grand gestures. Sometimes it's as simple as saying no when your plate is already full. Sometimes it's choosing rest over another late night obligation. Sometimes it's carving out space for exercise, journaling, or meditation, even when the world is telling you that you're too busy. Those small acts of self-focus are not selfish. They're fuel. They're what keep you resilient in the face of stress, focused in the face of distraction, and confident in the face of doubt. Let's be honest, when you're stretched too thin, how do you show up? Probably impatient, maybe reactive, easily triggered. But when you're balanced, when you've honored your own needs, you show up with patience, with clarity, with compassion. That's the difference. Self-focus transforms not just your inner world, but the way you impact everyone around you. Now, some people might resist this idea because they think self-focus means shutting others out. But focusing on yourself doesn't mean ignoring the people you care about. It means creating the strongest version of yourself so you can give from a place of abundance instead of depletion. It's the same principle we hear on every airplane. Secure your own oxygen mask first, not because you don't care about the person sitting next to you, but because you can't help them if you can't breathe. And I'll tell you something else. The more you practice focusing inward, the more you discover that your best contributions often come from alignment, not obligation. When you're aligned, you give with joy, not resentment. You work with passion, not burnout. You love with presence, not distraction. That's the real gift of self-focus. It elevates not only your life, but the lives of everyone connected to you. So I want you to start releasing the guilt around focusing on yourself. Stop apologizing for needing time, for setting boundaries, for choosing your health, your growth, your peace of mind. Because the truth is, when you focus on yourself, you're not just building your life, you're building the capacity to uplift others in the most authentic way possible. Take care of yourself first, and watch how much more powerful your impact becomes. Energy protection is key. There's something I want you to think about very carefully. Where does your energy go each day? Every thought, every conversation, every reaction is like a withdrawal from your inner account. Some people, some situations, even some habits drain you without you realizing it. And if you're not paying attention, you can end up completely depleted, giving away your strength to things that don't deserve it. This is why protecting your energy is one of the most important skills you can ever develop. Because the truth is, not every battle is worth fighting. Not every opinion is worth responding to. Not every distraction deserves your time. And yet many of us spend enormous amounts of energy reacting to comments online, reacting to criticism, reacting to negativity, reacting to pressure. We hand over our power simply by engaging with things that add no real value to our lives. When you stay silent in moments of unnecessary conflict, you are not being weak, you are being wise. Silence is not surrender, it is conservation. It is the decision to save your energy for the things that actually matter: your growth, your goals, your well-being, your relationships. It's choosing to invest where the return is worth it. Think about the last time you got pulled into an argument that didn't really matter. Maybe it was at work, maybe with family, maybe online. How did you feel afterward? Drained, tense, frustrated. That's the cost of misplaced energy. Now think about the times when you stayed quiet, when you let the noise pass, when you walked away with your peace intact. That's the power of choosing silence. That's energy protection in action. And this doesn't just apply to conflicts. It applies to habits, environments, even people. If your days are filled with endless scrolling, constant comparison, or relationships that leave you feeling smaller instead of stronger, you're leaking energy in ways that are invisible but deeply damaging. Protecting your energy means becoming aware of those leaks and intentionally closing them. It means being brave enough to say, this is not where I choose to spend myself anymore. Now, let me be clear, protecting your energy is not about building walls or shutting everyone out. It's about boundaries. It's about understanding that your energy is finite and precious, and you only get so much of it each day. Where you direct it determines the quality of your life. Give it away carelessly, and you'll feel scattered, unfocused, exhausted. Guard it carefully, and you'll feel centered, powerful, ready for the challenges that truly matter. And here's the beautiful part. When you start conserving energy in this way, you don't just feel better, you become more effective. You have more clarity to make decisions, more focus to pursue your goals, more patience to handle challenges. You're not spread thin anymore. You're concentrated, intentional, deliberate. That is where true strength is born. So the next time you're tempted to react to something that doesn't deserve your energy, pause, breathe, ask yourself, does this truly matter? Will this still matter tomorrow? Or am I about to spend my power on something that doesn't deserve it? That tiny moment of awareness can change everything. It's the difference between scattering your strength and directing it with precision. Your energy is your life force. It's the fuel for every dream, every achievement, every connection you will ever create. Protect it like it matters, because it does. Don't waste your fire on what drains you. Save it for what builds you. Inner growth over outer validation. One of the greatest traps we fall into is chasing after validation from the outside world. From the time we're young, we're rewarded with gold stars, grades, trophies, likes, comments, applause. And while recognition can feel good, the danger is that we start relying on it. We start shaping our choices, our actions, even our identity around what other people think of us. And without realizing it, we hand over the steering wheel of our lives to everyone but ourselves. Here's the problem with that. External validation is temporary. It's fleeting. It disappears as quickly as it arrives. You can get 100 compliments and still feel empty if you haven't built the foundation within yourself. That's why so many people find themselves chasing the next achievement, the next title, the next big moment, because the applause fades and they don't know who they are without it. Inner growth works differently. Inner growth is slow, steady, sometimes quiet, but it's lasting. It's the kind of strength no one can give you and no one can take away. It comes from the daily discipline of showing up for yourself, not because someone is watching, but because you know it matters. It's waking up and choosing to move your body even when no one sees it. It's sitting in silence to journal or reflect, even when there's no applause. It's sticking with your commitments to yourself, especially when there's no audience to cheer you on. And here's what makes it powerful. When your confidence comes from that inner place, you become unshakable. Criticism doesn't destroy you, and praise doesn't define you. You stop being controlled by the ups and downs of external opinion because your anchor is inside, not outside. Think about the strongest people you know, not the loudest, not the flashiest, but the strongest. They carry a calmness, a steadiness, a presence that comes from inner growth. They've done the work when nobody was watching. They've built confidence from consistency, not from applause. And that's why they can walk into a room without needing to announce their worth, because they know it already. The truth is, the pursuit of validation will always keep you running, always keep you restless. But the pursuit of inner growth will ground you, center you, and guide you. It shifts the question from, what will people think of me if I do this? To what do I think of myself if I don't? That is a radically different way to live. And here's something else. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions to start building inner growth. You don't need the right job, the right relationship, the right approval. You can begin right now exactly where you are by choosing one small practice that strengthens you from within. Because the truth is, It's not the big milestones that transform you. It's the small, repeated actions that stack up over time until suddenly you realize you've become someone stronger, more resilient, more confident than you ever imagined. So the next time you feel tempted to measure your worth by how others see you, pause. Remember that applause fades, opinions shift, but what you build inside remains. You don't need to shout to prove your strength. You don't need to chase to prove your worth. The real victory is when you know deep down that you've grown into someone you're proud of, whether the world claps or not. Stop chasing the noise of validation. Start building the quiet power of inner growth. Strategic silence is power. There's a misconception that power is always loud. That strength comes from raising your voice, proving your point, or making sure everyone knows exactly where you stand. But the truth is, real power often looks very different. Real power can be quiet. It can be measured. It can be expressed in the choice not to react when someone is pushing for a reaction. Silence, when used with intention, is one of the strongest tools you will ever have. Think about it. When someone says something negative to you, they're often looking for a response. They want to draw you into their storm, to pull your energy into their conflict. And the moment you react, you've given them what they wanted. But when you choose silence, when you stand steady without letting yourself get pulled in, you take away their control. Suddenly, the power shifts. You're no longer playing their game. You're holding the space on your own terms. Silence doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're choosing your battles with intention. You're conserving your energy for what matters instead of spending it proving yourself in places that don't deserve it. And in that restraint, there is a strength that people notice, even if they can't always put words to it. Some of the most respected leaders in history were not the ones who spoke the most, but the ones who spoke with weight. People listened to them not because they filled every moment with words, but because they understood when to stay silent, when to observe, and when to speak so that their words carried impact. Silence creates space for presence, and presence creates authority. And silence is not just about what you withhold, it's also about what you gain. In those quiet moments, you get to listen. You notice details others miss. You read the energy of the room. You learn more than you ever could if you were filling the air with words. That awareness is power. It gives you the clarity to act wisely instead of reacting impulsively. We've all had moments where we've said something too quickly only to regret it later. That's the danger of noise. But when you practice strategic silence, you give yourself time to choose, time to decide whether your voice will add value, whether your words will move the situation forward, or whether silence itself is the stronger answer. And there's another dimension to this. Silence commands respect. When you're not rushing to prove yourself, people begin to pay attention in a different way. They see that you're not easily rattled. They sense your steadiness. And over time, that creates an authority that shouting never could. So don't underestimate the quiet moves. Don't underestimate the power of letting your actions speak louder than your words, of letting your presence carry more weight than your explanations. Strategic silence is not about withholding your voice forever. It's about using it wisely. It's about knowing that sometimes the loudest message you can send is the one you never say out loud. The world will try to bait you into unnecessary battles, try to tempt you into proving yourself at every turn. But remember, every time you choose silence with intention, you are declaring to yourself and to others, my energy is too important. My growth is too strong to be wasted here. Silence isn't empty. It's power held in reserve. Use it wisely, and it becomes unstoppable. Rise quietly, shine boldly. There's something profoundly beautiful about progress that happens quietly. In a world obsessed with broadcasting every step, every win, every update, there's a rare kind of strength in choosing to build in silence, to focus on your growth without the need to announce it, to put in the work when no one is watching, to trust that the results will speak for themselves. Because here's the truth, when you rise quietly, you eventually shine so boldly that the world can't ignore it. We've been conditioned to believe that visibility equals value, that if people don't see what you're doing, it somehow doesn't count. But that's not how growth really works. Growth isn't always Instagram worthy. It isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it looks like long nights of discipline, Early mornings of practice, quiet evenings of reflection. Sometimes it looks like saying no to distractions, like keeping promises to yourself that no one else will ever know about. That's the invisible work, the kind of work that doesn't get applause in the moment, but creates transformation that lasts a lifetime. And what happens when you choose this path is extraordinary. Without the noise of proving yourself, you gain momentum. You're not looking sideways, comparing your journey to someone else's timeline. You're not constantly asking, do they see me? Do they approve? Instead, you're locked in on your vision and slowly, steadily you rise. Then comes the moment, sometimes unexpectedly, when the results of that quiet work become visible. The strength you've been building, the clarity you've been cultivating, the confidence you've been nurturing, it all shines through and people notice. And when they notice, it feels different because this time you didn't chase recognition. You didn't depend on validation. You built something real, and real cannot be ignored. This is the paradox. The less you need to be seen, the more undeniable your presence becomes. When you're not performing for approval, your work carries authenticity. When you're not seeking the spotlight, your light shines brighter. And when your growth is rooted in discipline rather than applause, your success is unshakable. So don't be afraid to rise in silence. Don't be afraid if no one claps for you right now. Don't be afraid if your progress feels invisible in the moment. Every day you stay focused, every choice you make in alignment, every step you take forward, it's stacking up quietly, steadily, powerfully. And when the time comes, the world will see what you've built. They won't just see your success. They'll feel your strength, your presence, your authenticity. And here's the best part. When you shine boldly after rising quietly, you inspire others in ways words never could. You show them that it's possible to live with focus, to grow with intention, to succeed without noise. You give them permission to stop chasing the spotlight and start building their own inner foundation. Your life becomes the proof that silence is not weakness, it's preparation. And that preparation leads to greatness. So as we bring all of this together, remember this: silence gave you clarity, focus gave you strength, protecting your energy gave you resilience, inner growth gave you confidence, and strategic silence gave you power. All of that sets the stage for this final truth. When you rise quietly, you shine in a way that no one can ever dim. Build in silence, rise with focus, and let your light speak louder than any words ever could. Outro of this video: in a world that glorifies noise, where everyone is shouting to be seen, rushing to be heard, the real secret to strength is the opposite. It's not about proving yourself louder. It's about focusing inward, staying grounded, and moving in silence. Because silence is not weakness, it's strategy. It's the space where confidence grows, resilience is built, and clarity takes root. When you stop chasing applause and start building within, your rise becomes unstoppable. And when you finally shine, the world will notice, because success that's born in silence cannot be ignored.